Hey there, and welcome back to Utility Sports. In today's video, we're covering a possible NFL expansion franchise. Now, the crazy part about doing this one is I've decided that we're not going to allow for an expansion draft. This is strictly going to be based on the current NFL free agents that are out there, and can we build a formidable team for the future? That's a lot of questions you have to ask yourself, and we have to try to decide where's our city. I thought St. Louis very well could potentially get back in the mix for an NFL franchise. So that is one that's on our radar. We saw how it went with the St. Louis Battlehawks, a lot of great fan support, a stadium that's, currently ready, but, they would have to look to potentially upgrade in the future. But yeah, I mean, looking at it holistically, there are some names here that could help them be, instant contributors right away. Make sure to hit that subscribe button, though, if you do enjoy NFL content. I'll give you a second. Go ahead and do that. And now we will get right into the video. Looking at the head coach, you have to have a good head coach in order to progress in this league and really give yourself a chance. I elected to go with Ben Johnson. We saw the masterful job he had done with this offense last season in Detroit. The progression of Jared Goff, Amon-Ra St. Brown, the running game was terrific. And you just look across the board, they were super efficient, one of the top 5 offenses in the league, and they did this with little to no expectations heading into the season. So for me, Ben Johnson makes a lot of sense, and he got a lot of looks this offseason, and I think that he would be the perfect head coach to kind of right the ship and, create an instant impact, especially on the offensive side of the ball. So for me, Ben Johnson is our head coach. And now we get to the quarterback position. And this quarterback position is likely going to be the one that really kind of keeps us from hitting our ceiling, because the QB spot is very tough to come by. And it's, pretty blatantly obvious that there's not a ton of really good quarterbacks that remain. However, there are some that can keep you competitive in ball games. So looking at it here, we have Carson Wentz, Teddy Bridgewater, and Matt Ryan potentially could be an option as well. I think in terms of who the starter would be going into the year, I think it really does come down between Carson Wentz and Teddy Bridgewater. Carson Wentz, if he's able to kind of unlock, what he had been able to do earlier in his career. Teddy Bridgewater is pretty consistent. You know what you're going to get. You have a higher ceiling with Carson Wentz. However, Teddy Bridgewater provides a little bit higher of a floor. But I think if you're ultimately, if you're a team like this, you would have to go with the quarterback that's got a little bit more promise, a little bit more excitement, and what he can bring to a team and be a ceiling raiser. So we're likely going to have to start Carson Wentz in this situation. At the running back spot, there is a ton of name brand talent remaining on the board. We were able to, quickly scoop up Dalvin Cook, have Ezekiel Elliott, Kareem Hunt, and Leonard Fournette. A lot of guys that have been bell cows throughout the course of their careers. Some of them were a little bit, more shocked that they remain in free agency than others. Ezekiel Elliott looks a little bit slower than he has in years past. Dalvin Cook, once again, he can be a 1,000-yard rusher. Likely going to be the starter heading into this. I think Dalvin Cook is definitely our RB1, followed by probably Kareem Hunt is at RB2. Ezekiel Elliott will be a nice goal line back and provide some stability there. And Leonard Fournette is, really there for depth purposes. So, kind of looking at these guys, I think it makes a ton of sense to have this grouping at the running back spot. At the receiver position, this is a little bit tougher. This is, oh boy. Yeah, I don't love what I'm seeing at the receiver spot. Outside of the outlier of DeAndre Hopkins, I don't like Kenny Golladay having to be our wide receiver too. Julio Jones is obviously an all-time great. However, considering his current age and where his production level will be, not very promising. Demarcus Robinson and Jarvis Landry, that is our wide receiver room. I don't love that. I don't like that at all. The receiver position is going to struggle mightily, in my opinion. Outside DeAndre Hopkins going to have a 1,000-yard season with us, but looking at it here, I don't have the utmost confidence in the group that we have put together here. Unfortunately, we're going to have to try to leverage some trades. We're going to have to try to find some teams that are willing to move off of some depth receivers that can potentially give us a chance in terms of a youth movement. We're going to have to rely on some UDFAs all those would be true factors in an actual expansion without an NFL, without an actual true expansion draft. So looking at that wide receiver position is tough to look at. Max Williams will likely be the starting tight end out of this grouping, and the reason for that is in terms of his production level and what he can bring to an NFL roster right away. I think is a little more of a diverse skill set than Pruitt and Ryan Griffin can provide. He's the best pass catcher of these three. I think Max Williams could have a nice season. To me, there's still some hope for him. I really do believe that. His time at the University of Minnesota, he was incredible. Hasn't lived up to his draft status, however, still can be productive in the league. One of the strengths of this team, surprisingly, is actually this offensive line. Looking across the board at the tackles, you have George Fant and Taylor Lewan. I think Taylor Lewan can, once again be a productive tackle in the league and can provide you a lot of stability on that offensive line. Dalton Risner is probably one of the best players on our team in general, just considering his age and, where he can be at as a player. Really good run blocker, smart player, and is tough. And Ben Jones at the center spot and Trey Turner at the other guard spot. This is a good offensive line. This is actually a formidable one in terms of comparatively where you would have to be at for an expansion. This is actually a pretty good group. Now, in terms of where it ranked versus other offensive lines, it wouldn't look very good, right? Obviously, there's a lot of teams that have much better offensive lines, but this is where you could really be dismantled if this isn't at least semi-competitive. If we think about, teams with terrible offensive lines and not a lot of skill position on the perimeter and at the QB spot, there's really no chance for them. So offensive line is actually viewed as actually one of the strengths of this team. On the defensive line, and you look at the edge spots, Yannick Ngakoue, Jadeveon Clowney, two guys that I think could be productive, can be 10-sack guys in the league. So to me, this is a good situation at the edge spot. On the interior, you're looking at Dawuane Smoot, Matt Ioannidis, two guys that can definitely hold up their own on that interior. More pass rushing oriented with Dawuane Smoot. Ioannidis is a well-balanced interior defensive lineman, but Jadeveon Clowney, Yannick Ngakoue, both big names, both can still be productive in the league. I think they could have two nice seasons for us with this team. At the linebacker spot, this is not necessarily the biggest weakness, I would say, but this just doesn't look great. You look at Jalen Smith, Rashaan Evans, Quan Alexander, all household names, but at this stage of their career, I feel less excited about them as a group in totality. But I mean, Rashaan Evans has been productive. Jalen Smith has had a couple of productive years. So has Quan Alexander. I just feel like they're at their point in their careers where, a little less desirable. However, it's a formidable group. It's a group that I would feel okay running out at that linebacker spot. You don't necessarily need to be elite at this spot to compete in this league. However, you have to have guys that, can definitely be impact players at that second level of the defense. So looking at it, Jalen Smith, Rashaan Evans, I like that tandem at the linebacker spot. To me, they are just fine for where we're at. Now at the cornerback spot, kind of a make or break position once again. We have some versatility with Byron Jones. Ronald Darby and Marcus Peters highlight the grouping. Older corners still can be productive, still can make some big time plays despite their current age. Troy Hill, Anthony Brown, some other guys that are a little less fun, but at the cornerback spot, we do have to keep in mind of what the market looks like and what would be currently available. It's tough to come by good corners this late into free agency, but Marcus Peters, I still think, could have a nice productive season. He's had a really good career to this point. Ronald Darby as well can be one of those guys that can be a staple on the back half of that defense. So cornerbacks, I like that group. Safety spot, I am scared of this. I would not want to run this out. Logan Ryan, Andrew Adams, Deron Harmon. Once again, some household names. I'm not saying that that's not the case, but Logan Ryan at his current age. Deron Harmon is getting up there in age. Andrew Adams is up there in age. So overall, you are relying a ton on some of these slower safeties to be able to really spearhead the back end of that defense. Logan Ryan's going to be a really good locker room guy. He's going to be a terrific locker room guy for this team. But to me, I just don't have the utmost confidence that this will hold up throughout the course of the season. Deron Harmon's provides some versatility as well, but just, I don't love this. I don't love this at all, trying to go into the season like that. I'm probably trying to leverage a preseason trade, trying to get a safety, bring them in, maybe work out some UDFAs and some other guys that maybe get cut from this, past draft class, during camp. That's likely where the source of my safeties would come. This is a roster that is old and would very likely need some turnover quickly. However, if you're trying to field the most competitive team in year one, this is probably the route that you would have to go. Ideally, you'd like to have some rookies in there. We didn't have the draft to leverage there. So everything takes place here with the expansion post-draft, and it makes it extremely difficult to be able to field a competitive team that can actually win some games. So at the safety spot, absolutely terrified of this grouping. Special teams. Overall, Brett Maher, I think he, in terms of his actual range, he can hit it from downtown, 50 plus. I don't have a problem there going with Brett Maher. And Kevin Huber, another one that it's just like he's 38. There's not a lot left in the tank for him, a year or two, and then he's likely going to retire. So overall, the special teams unit with the kicker and punter, I'm okay with that. There's a couple of guys, in the return game, likely would be having to kind of scavenge free agency and try to find some other return guys that could be some nice specialists for us, and that would have to come from some tryouts. But as for the kicker and punter position, I'm okay here. I think this is a completely fine unit to have moving forward. If you did enjoy this video, make sure to hit that subscribe button. I had a lot of fun recording this one. There's a lot of discussions to be had on what an expansion team without a draft would have to look like in order to try to field a competitive team. My actual final win-loss prediction for them, I really think that they would probably win maybe one game. Even at that, I think they probably lose every single game, to be honest. If I'm being completely honest with myself and me being the GM of what this team was, I think they probably lose every single game. However, it's a foundation, it's a place to start, and it's a conversation that needed to be had. So thanks again for stopping by, and we'll catch you in the very next Utility Sports video.